The massive research vessel Star Seeker hung motionless in Earth's orbit, its sensors working overtime as the alien crew stared at their screens in disbelief. Lead scientist Dr. White rechecked the readings for the fifth time, his four-fingered hands trembling as he input the commands. "This can't be right," he muttered, his gray skin turning a shade paler. "Run the planetary analysis again." The ship's computer whirred, and the holographic display lit up with fresh data. The numbers remained unchanged. Earth was, by every scientific measure, a Class 13 death world. Dr. White turned to his assistant, Mr. Black, who was equally stunned. "Look at these readings. Extreme temperature variations from -60 to +50 degrees in different regions. Gravity at 9.8 meters per second squared. Oxygen levels high enough to make most planets burst into flames. And the natural disasters." He paused, scrolling through the list. Earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and tsunamis, all active and frequent. "But sir," Mr. Black pointed at another screen showing bustling cities, "there's clearly intelligent life down there. Billions of them." "That's what makes this impossible," Dr. White replied. "No species has ever survived on a Class 13 world, let alone built civilizations. The Council quarantined all such planets centuries ago." The ship's captain, Mr. Gray, entered the research bay. His usually stern face showed rare signs of concern. "Have you confirmed the readings?" "Multiple times, Captain. Earth meets every criterion for Class 13 classification." But Dr. White projected images of human activities onto the main screen. "Look at these natives. They're not just surviving, they're thriving." The images showed humans mountain climbing, deep sea diving, running marathons, and even jumping out of aircraft for fun. The alien crew watched in horror as humans casually went about their lives in conditions that would kill most galactic species instantly. "They live in areas with regular snowfall," Mr. Black noted, his voice filled with wonder. "And in deserts, sometimes in the same region. They swim in oceans full of predators. They even keep deadly predators as pets." Captain Gray studied the data silently. As a veteran of space exploration, he had seen many worlds, but nothing like this. "We need to report this to the Council immediately. This changes everything we know about planetary classification and species development." Dr. White began preparing the report, his fingers flying over the holographic keyboard. "The implications are staggering. These humans have adapted to conditions we thought impossible for any life form. They've turned deadly environmental features into recreational activities. They build homes in disaster zones and rebuild when nature destroys them." The ship's sensors detected a new weather pattern forming below. The crew watched as a massive storm system developed, expecting the human cities to shut down. Instead, they saw people simply opening umbrellas and continuing their daily routines. "Incredible," Captain Gray whispered. "Most species would be requesting emergency evacuation by now." Mr. Black pulled up more data. "Sir, you won't believe this. They have something called extreme sports, where they deliberately seek out the most dangerous conditions for entertainment. They climb their highest mountains, dive into their deepest oceans, and race vehicles at lethal speeds." Dr. White finished his report and sent it to the Galactic Council. "The Council won't like this. It challenges everything we know about species development and planetary habitability. Earth should be a dead world. Instead, it's home to perhaps the most resilient species we've ever encountered." Captain Gray made a decision. "Prepare for first contact protocols. The Council will want to study these humans closely. But be careful. Any species that can thrive in these conditions must be incredibly powerful. We don't want to provoke them." As the Star Seeker's crew began their preparations, they continued to monitor the planet below. They watched as humans went about their lives, unknowingly defying everything the galactic community believed possible. Earth spun beneath them, A beautiful but deadly world that had somehow produced a species that turned impossible conditions into their greatest strength. The discovery would change the galaxy forever, but for now, all they could do was watch and wonder at the remarkable species that called this Deathworld home. Ambassador Green stood nervously at the entrance of the United Nations building in New York. Despite all his diplomatic training, nothing had prepared him for meeting beings who casually lived on a Class 13 Deathworld. His protective suit beeped warnings about the high oxygen content and gravity, which he tried to ignore. Behind him, his security team looked equally uncomfortable. They had insisted on coming, though their weapons seemed pointless now. What threat could they pose to creatures who survived daily conditions that would kill most galactic species instantly? "Welcome to Earth," said the human diplomatic team leader, Mr. Miller, extending his hand. Ambassador Green had been briefed about this handshake custom, but still flinched at the casual display of strength. A human's grip could easily crush his bones. "Thank you for having us," Green replied through his translator. "We are honored to make official contact with your species." As they walked into the building, Green noticed humans casually carrying cups of hot liquid. His sensors indicated the temperature would cause severe burns to most alien species. Yet here were humans, drinking it for pleasure. The meeting room was kept at what humans called room temperature, a range that required Green's suit to work overtime to maintain his body temperature. The human delegates sat comfortably in their light clothing, while the alien delegation sweated in their protective gear. "We've reviewed your initial contact package," Mr. Miller began, "but we're curious why you seem so concerned about our planet's conditions." Green's translator struggled to find diplomatic words. "Your world, what you call Earth, it's what we classify as a Class 13 Deathworld, the highest and most dangerous classification. No other known species has ever survived such conditions." The human delegates exchanged confused looks. "Dangerous?" asked Ms. Johnson, another human diplomat. "Earth is quite pleasant most of the time." "Pleasant?" Green's voice rose in disbelief. "Your world experiences regular natural disasters that would destroy most civilizations. Your gravity alone should make complex life impossible. The oxygen levels in your atmosphere—" He paused, checking his suit's readings again. "They should cause spontaneous combustion." Mr. Miller smiled, a gesture that displayed teeth, another terrifying reminder of humanity's predatory origins. "Those are just normal parts of life here. We've adapted. Would you like to see some of our cities?" The tour that followed left the alien delegation in stunned silence. They watched humans working in construction sites dozens of stories high, with minimal safety equipment. They saw children playing in parks under the deadly UV rays of their sun. A sudden rain shower sent the aliens scrambling for cover, while humans simply pulled out umbrellas, treating the acid-like water as a minor inconvenience. "And this is one of our gyms," Ms. Johnson said, leading them into a building where humans were voluntarily lifting heavy weights and running on machines. "You deliberately make your bodies endure more strain?" Green asked, horrified. "Of course. It's good for our health," she replied cheerfully. "Some people even run marathons. That's 42 kilometers, for fun." Green's translator nearly shorted out trying to process this information. His security team had long since given up maintaining their professional composure and were openly staring at the humans in terror. The final stop was a restaurant, where they watched humans casually consuming substances that their scanners identified as capsaicin, a chemical defense compound that would be classified as a biological weapon on most worlds. "This has been enlightening," Green managed to say as they concluded the tour. "The Galactic Council will need to seriously reconsider many of its fundamental assumptions about life and survival." As he prepared to return to his ship, Green watched a group of human children playing in a nearby park, climbing structures and falling onto the ground without serious injury. These beings had not just survived on a Deathworld. They had turned its deadly features into sources of recreation and enjoyment. The galaxy would never be the same after this revelation. Humanity wasn't just an exception to the rules. They rewrote the entire rulebook just by existing. Professor Brown's research station orbited Earth like a watchful eye in space. For the past month, his team had been studying humans with a mix of fascination and fear. Their latest test results lay spread across his desk, each one more unbelievable than the last. "Look at this data," he said to his research partner, Dr. Red. "Their endurance capabilities are off our charts. They can literally run their prey to death." Dr. Red adjusted her gravity compensators and looked at the screens. They showed footage of human marathon runners, moving hour after hour under the blazing sun. Their thermal regulation is unlike anything we've seen. They just keep going. And that's not even the most interesting part. Professor Brown pulled up another file. Their bodies produce a chemical called adrenaline. When faced with danger, instead of shutting down like normal species, they become stronger, faster, more alert. The research station's observation room was filled with screens showing different aspects of human life. One screen displayed a human rock climbing without safety equipment. Another showed deep-sea divers swimming alongside massive ocean predators. A third displayed humans practicing something called parkour, literally jumping between buildings for entertainment. "Watch this," Dr. Red pointed to a new video feed. "These humans are walking on hot coals as part of a motivation seminar. They're deliberately exposing themselves to temperatures that would kill most species for personal development." Professor Brown shook his head in amazement. "Their adaptability is incredible. We've recorded them surviving in temperatures from -50 to +50 degrees. They can go days without water, weeks without food. Their bones are dense enough to survive impacts that would shatter most species." The station's computer chimed with new data. This time, it was psychological studies. Dr. Red read through them with growing astonishment. "Their mental resilience matches their physical capabilities," she noted. "They can endure extreme stress, isolation, and fear without breaking. They even seek out situations that trigger these responses. Look at these horror movies they make for entertainment." Professor Brown pulled up his summary report for the Galactic Council. "We've identified several unique traits that allow them to survive on their Deathworld. First, their sweat glands. They can regulate body temperature better than any known species. Second, their endurance running. They can outlast virtually any prey. Third, their ability to process adrenaline. It turns panic responses into survival advantages. Don't forget their problem-solving abilities," Dr. Red added. "They've turned every deadly feature of their planet into an advantage. Too cold, they invented heating. Too hot, air conditioning. Dangerous predators, they made them into pets. Natural disasters, they built warning systems and stronger buildings." The station's alerts suddenly blared. On the screens, they watched as a massive storm system formed over a human city. But instead of mass panic, they saw something extraordinary. Humans were surfing on the giant waves created by the storm. "Incredible," Professor Brown whispered. "They don't just survive disasters, they find ways to enjoy them." Their study had revealed something unprecedented. Humans hadn't just adapted to their Deathworld, they had mastered it. Every challenge their planet threw at them made them stronger, more innovative, more resilient. "We need to update the classification system," Dr. Red said, reviewing their findings. "The current scale doesn't account for species that actively thrive in deadly conditions." Professor Brown nodded, adding final notes to his report. "The Council won't like this, but the evidence is clear. Humans aren't just survivors. They're the apex species of a world that should be uninhabitable. They've turned evolutionary pressure into recreational activities and deadly environments into playgrounds." As they finished their report, the screen showed humans going about their daily lives, casual and comfortable in conditions that would kill most galactic species instantly. Their research had proven what many had suspected. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't just surviving on a Deathworld. It was making that Deathworld their home. The emergency alarms blared through the Galactic Council's central chambers. Red lights flashed as reports flooded in from the colony world of New Haven. A Class 15 predator, one of the deadliest creatures known to exist, had escaped from its containment facility. Council Leader Blue stood before the emergency session, his face grim. The situation is critical. The creature has already destroyed 3 cities. Our best military forces have failed to stop it. The death toll, he paused, his voice shaking, is in the thousands. The holographic displays showed scenes of destruction. The predator, a massive beast that combined the worst aspects of Earth's ancient dinosaurs and deep-sea monsters, tore through everything in its path. Conventional weapons bounced off its armored hide. "Our strongest weapons are useless," Commander Stone reported. "Our fastest ships can't outmaneuver it. We've lost 6 elite squadrons already." In the midst of the panic, Professor Brown from the Earth Research Station raised his hand. "There might be one solution," he said quietly, "but you're not going to like it." All eyes turned to him as he pulled up data from his human studies. "We need to ask the humans for help. They're the only species who might stand a chance." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Council Leader Blue raised his hands for silence. "The humans, from the Class 13 Deathworld. They're barely a space-faring civilization." "Exactly," Professor Brown replied. "They evolved on a world nearly as dangerous as this creature. They've developed hunting and combat techniques we've never even considered. And most importantly, they don't shut down in the face of overwhelming odds. They get stronger." The council chamber fell silent as they considered this. On the screens, the creature continued its rampage, now approaching New Haven's largest population center. "We have no choice," Commander Stone admitted. "Our conventional forces are useless. We need unconventional solutions." The call went out to Earth. The human response was immediate and unexpected. Instead of fear or hesitation, they showed excitement. Within hours, a team of human specialists was assembled. Military veterans, big game hunters, and survival experts. The human team arrived on New Haven as the creature approached the capital city. Their equipment seemed primitive by galactic standards. Simple projectile weapons, basic armor, and handheld tools. The council observers watched in horror as the humans studied the beast's patterns with what seemed like casual interest. "You don't understand," Council Leader Blue tried to explain. "This is a Class 15 predator. Nothing survives an encounter with it." The human team leader, Captain West, just smiled. "With all due respect, sir, we've got things on Earth that make this look tame. Now, does anyone have some high explosives we can borrow?" The council was shocked by their confidence, but with no alternatives, they gave the humans whatever they requested. The human team set up their operation with surprising speed, using tactics that seemed suicidal to alien observers. "Are they really going to try to outmaneuver it on foot?" Dr. Red asked in disbelief. "That's impossible." But as they watched, the impossible became reality. The humans used their environment in ways no one had considered. They set traps, used coordinated attacks, and demonstrated an ability to think and adapt faster than the creature could react. "Fascinating," Professor Brown muttered, taking notes. "They're not just fighting it. They're hunting it. Like their ancestors hunted on Earth." The battle raged for hours. The humans took risks that made the council observers cringe, but their strategy was working. They weren't just surviving, they were winning. As the sun set on New Haven, the Class 15 predator lay defeated, brought down not by advanced technology or overwhelming force, but by the determination and adaptability of beings who had evolved on a world almost as deadly as the creature itself. The council watched in stunned silence as the human team began packing up their equipment, treating their victory as if it were just another day's work. They had just accomplished what the galaxy's most advanced military forces couldn't, and they were acting like it was routine. The captured Class 15 Predator incident had changed everything. Now, a month later, The Galactic Council's main training facility buzzed with activity as Captain West and his human team prepared to demonstrate their methods to an elite group of alien military forces. Today's lesson is about adaptation and improvisation, Captain West announced to the nervous alien observers. His team had set up what they called an obstacle course, a series of challenges that would have been lethal on most worlds. The alien commanders watched through protective shields as the human team demonstrated their techniques. West moved with casual confidence through terrain that the aliens' safety systems classified as unsurvivable. The key isn't about having the best technology, West explained, climbing a sheer wall with minimal equipment. It's about understanding your environment and using it to your advantage. Commander Stone watched in amazement as the humans demonstrated survival techniques that defied conventional military doctrine. They showed how to make shelter in extreme conditions, find water in seemingly barren environments, and handle combat situations with minimal resources. Notice how they used their surroundings, Professor Brown commented from the observation deck. Everything is a potential tool or weapon to them. It's how they survived on Earth. The demonstration moved to the combat arena. The alien officers flinched as the humans engaged in close-quarters combat training. The speed and violence of their movements seemed impossible for beings from a high-gravity world. Your species relies too much on energy weapons, West explained, showing basic hand-to-hand combat techniques. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. We learned that fighting predators on Earth. One of the alien commanders, Officer Gray, raised his hand. But how do you overcome the fear? Our species' natural instinct is to freeze or flee from such dangers. West smiled. That's the biggest difference. Humans don't just fight or flee. We adapt. Fear makes us stronger, sharper. We call it getting an adrenaline rush. The training continued with survival scenarios. The humans showed how they could endure extreme temperatures, limited oxygen, and high pressure, conditions that matched their home world. Watch this, Professor Brown pointed to the monitors. Their heart rates actually stabilize under stress. Instead of panic, they become more focused. The aliens observed in stunned silence as the humans demonstrated their endurance. They ran for hours in high gravity, swam through freezing water, and navigated hostile terrain without advanced technology. We're not showing you this to impress you, West explained during a break. We're showing you that these skills can be learned. Your species may not have evolved on a Deathworld, but you can adapt like we did. The most dramatic moment came during the emergency response training. The facility simulated a disaster scenario, complete with artificial earthquakes and toxic atmosphere. The human team moved through it like they were taking a casual walk. "This is nothing," one of the human trainers commented. "You should see the conditions during monsoon season back home." By the end of the day, the alien commanders had a new perspective on survival and combat. The humans hadn't just shown them new techniques, they demonstrated a completely different way of thinking about challenges. The galaxy is changing, Commander Stone admitted to Professor Brown as they watched the humans pack up their equipment. "We've relied on technology to protect us from harsh environments. These humans, they've shown us how to thrive in them." The training session's success led to an immediate expansion of the program. The Galactic Council authorized the creation of multiple human-led training facilities across the galaxy. As the day ended, Captain West gathered his team for a final demonstration, scaling a sheer cliff face without safety equipment, just to prove it could be done. The alien observers watched, no longer in horror, but in admiration. The humans had turned their Deathworld experience into the galaxy's most valuable training program. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were teachers, showing others how to overcome their own limitations. The halls of the Galactic Council's Central Academy were packed with alien species from across the galaxy. What had started as a small human training program had exploded into the most sought-after survival and combat training in known space. Instructor West, now promoted to training director, watched as another group of alien students attempted the basic obstacle course. In just 6 months, the changes were remarkable. Species that once needed protective suits to function were now adapting to various environments. Their progress is impressive, Professor Brown noted, reviewing the latest data. Look at the Centaurians. They used to collapse in anything above minimal gravity. Now they're running laps in Earth normal conditions. The training facilities had expanded beyond just military applications. Civilian groups were learning human survival techniques, construction methods, and adaptation strategies. Earth's harsh conditions had created a species that excelled at teaching others how to overcome their limitations. The most interesting change isn't physical, Dr. Red observed, watching a group of alien scientists studying human problem-solving methods. It's psychological. These species are learning to think like humans, to see challenges as opportunities rather than threats. In the main training hall, a group of alien students was learning Earth's history of exploration and innovation. The instructor, Lieutenant Park, explained how humans had conquered every environment on their planet. Your civilizations developed by avoiding dangerous conditions, Park explained. We developed by confronting them. That's why we build cities in earthquake zones, tornado alleys, and floodplains. We don't just survive. We adapt and thrive. The revolution wasn't just in training. Alien societies began incorporating human design principles into their architecture and technology. Buildings became stronger, vehicles more versatile, and survival equipment more practical. Look at these statistics. Professor Brown showed Commander Stone the latest reports. Species that complete human training programs show a 300% increase in survival rates during natural disasters. Their problem-solving capabilities have doubled. The Galactic Council had to create a new classification system. The old one, based on avoiding dangerous conditions, no longer fit a galaxy learning to adapt to them. Humans became the baseline for resilience and adaptability. In the medical wing, alien doctors study human healing techniques. The human body's ability to repair itself and adapt to injuries had revolutionized galactic medicine. It's not just about physical toughness, the human medical instructor explained. It's about the will to survive. Humans don't give up. We find ways to keep going. The training center's success led to unexpected developments. Alien species began requesting human guidance for colonization projects. Worlds previously considered too dangerous for settlement were being reevaluated. They're starting to understand, West said, watching an alien construction team practice building storm-resistant structures. Every obstacle can be overcome with the right mindset and techniques. The revolution spread to education systems across the galaxy. Young aliens learned about Earth's history, studying how humans had turned their planet's deadly features into advantages. Stories of human explorers, inventors, and survivors became popular teaching materials. We're seeing a complete shift in galactic culture, Professor Brown reported to the Council. Species that once feared challenge now embrace it. They're exploring, adapting, and growing in ways we never expected. In the combat training area, alien soldiers learned human martial arts. Fighting styles developed over centuries of surviving on a Deathworld. The emphasis wasn't just on winning fights, but on enduring and adapting to any situation. As the day ended, West stood in the observation dome, watching students from 100 worlds training together. Some were learning Earth sports, others practicing survival skills, all of them growing stronger and more capable. We didn't just teach them to survive, he said to Professor Brown. We taught them to live without limits. The galaxy had changed. Species that once relied on technology to protect them from harsh conditions were learning to face challenges head-on. The human revolution wasn't just about survival training. It was about teaching the galaxy a new way to look at the universe. And it had all started because humans had turned their deadly homeworld into their greatest teacher. 10 years after first contact, Earth had transformed from a classified Deathworld into the galaxy's premier training ground. The Galactic Council's headquarters bustled with activity as they prepared to announce the new planetary classification system. Council Leader Blue stood before the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds. Behind him, a holographic display showed Earth in all its deadly beauty, storms raging across continents, volcanoes erupting, and humans going about their daily lives amidst it all. Today, we officially reclassify Earth as a crucible world, he announced, a planet that forges strength rather than destroys life. The term Deathworld no longer applies to a planet that has produced the galaxy's most resilient teachers. The changes were visible everywhere. Alien ships now regularly visited Earth, their crews trained to handle its conditions. Human survival instructors had become the most sought-after experts in the galaxy, teaching everything from disaster response to exploration techniques. Look at these numbers, Professor Brown presented to the Council. In the past decade, survival rates for deep space missions have increased by 500%. Colonial success rates have doubled. Emergency response effectiveness has tripled. The human impact went beyond survival training. Their approach to challenges had revolutionized galactic exploration. Worlds once considered too dangerous for settlement were now thriving colonies, built using Earth-inspired techniques. Humans haven't just taught us how to survive. Commander Stone addressed a graduation ceremony of alien cadets. They've taught us how to push beyond our limits, to see opportunity where we once saw only danger. Earth itself had changed. The planet now hosted the galaxy's largest survival academy. Alien students trained alongside humans, learning to endure conditions that would have killed their ancestors. The sight of various species jogging through rainstorms or practicing mountain climbing had become common. The most remarkable change isn't in the physical training, Dr. Red noted in her latest research paper. It's in the mindset. Species that once fled from danger now face it with determination. They've learned the human way: adapt, overcome, and thrive. Emergency response teams across the galaxy now included human advisors. When natural disasters struck, human-led teams were the first to respond. Their methods, once considered reckless, were now standard procedure for handling extreme situations. In the council chambers, a new proposal was being discussed. We want to establish crucible training centers on other challenging worlds. West, now Chief of Galactic Emergency Response, explained, Earth has shown us that harsh conditions create the best training environments. The galaxy had entered a new age of exploration and resilience. Ships ventured into previously forbidden regions of space. Colonies flourished on worlds once deemed uninhabitable. And at the center of it all was Earth, the planet that had turned adversity into strength. Our greatest achievement, Council Leader Blue reflected, wasn't in surviving our death world. It was in teaching others that they could be stronger than they ever imagined. The final ceremony of the day saw thousands of graduates from the Earth Training Academy receiving their certifications. Among them were species that had once needed environmental suits just to survive Earth's gravity. Now they stood proudly in Earth's natural conditions, transformed by their training. As the sun set over the academy, Professor Brown updated the final entry in his decade-long research project. Earth's reclassification marks more than a change in terminology, he wrote. It represents a fundamental shift in how the galaxy views challenges. What we once feared, we now embrace. What we once avoided, we now seek out. And it all began because one species refused to be limited by their deadly world. The new era had begun. Earth was no longer an exception to the rules. It had rewritten them. And as night fell over the planet, lights from 1,000 alien ships twinkled in the sky, each carrying beings who had learned that the greatest challenges often led to the greatest achievements. The Deathworld had become life's greatest teacher, and the galaxy would never be the same.